This is the Mental Health and Wellness Guide for Fundraising Professionals. Let me preface this by saying I am not a mental health professional. I am a fundraising professional. However, I am obsessed with health and wellness, and I think that gives me a little bit of a leg up in the game, and I have done a little bit of research. So these are a few of the things that I've really seen work in the fundraising field to prevent compassion fatigue, burnout, and general mental stress in the fundraising workplace. So first of all, why are we talking about this? Why does this even matter? We're gonna ask the question. Fundraising is typically a demanding job, not because it's a physically demanding job, or maybe it's not even necessarily an emotionally demanding job, but it's because fundraisers are almost always asked to do a lot with little resources. Sometimes at work you might think of yourself as a miracle worker. We always say that you're issued often 80 hours of work per week and you have to choose 40 of them, or maybe even choose to do 50 or 55 of them. Hopefully this conversation gives you some coping tools to let you settle in and have a little bit of a happier time at work. People throw around the word burnout a lot. Burnout is actually a really serious mental health issue that takes a very long time to recover from, and is actually the wrong term in most cases. When you're feeling burnt out, what you're probably feeling is what's called compassion fatigue. This can feel like feeling detached, avoiding donor conversations, and staying locked in your office, lack of fulfillment, especially if you at one time did have fulfillment at work, irritability, or tiredness. Now, again, these things may not be related specifically to your job. You may be experiencing these things outside of work, but if this feels a little bit familiar and you feel like your work has really been weighing you down, maybe causing some of this might be what you're experiencing, compassion fatigue. Now, this is a natural human response to difficult work. It's not a weakness. So we're gonna go over 4 tips to help you cope with this and hopefully get a little bit of your work life back. Number 1 is set boundaries and prioritize. One of the biggest issues we have with the fundraising field as a whole is that your to-do list is very wide. It's not very deep, it tends to be very, very wide. There's so many different lanes of fundraising between grants and events and meetings and meeting outside the office with donors and managing your CRM and managing your staff. It's such a wide job with so many different pieces. It's not very specialized. And what that can look like is trying to do an amazing job or a 10 out of 10 job in all of these lanes at once. And if you're not focusing on 2 or 3 key things at a time, you tend to go really shallow with a bunch of things and not deep in any area, which is the worst thing because you don't feel like you're making progress in that case. So the best thing we can do is prioritize. Maybe we go through seasons, maybe we go through 12-week sprints on certain things where you're really dialing in on one project at a time, but just understand that the profession naturally has a very wide breadth. And what that does is it prevents you from going deep on one thing at a time if you're not careful. Here are my 3 tips to make sure that you're prioritizing the things that actually move the needle and letting some of the things that don't matter as much go along the wayside. Number 1 is time blocking. Simplest way to do this is to set meetings with yourself around the things that you want to get done or the things you want to focus on. An example of this of like, I know I want to focus on major gifts, but I feel like I never have time. I always have these tasks and I have my to-do list, and then I have meetings, then I'm running around, and I just don't have enough white space on my calendar to figure out when I'm gonna do the major gift stuff. What I would do is I would maybe start with 2 hours a week, nice low lift, and set a meeting with yourself that just says major gifts. And your rule is if someone asks, are you available at 2 o'clock? You say, no, I have a meeting at that time. It's your major gifts meeting where you just work on major gifts. Or if you really do need to meet at that time with somebody else, you're allowed to move that 2-hour block to somewhere else in the week. But if you run out of days and it gets all the way to Friday and you can't move it anymore, then you have to say, nope, but I have time on Monday, and you're very disciplined about keeping that 2-hour block. We're very quick to not cancel meetings with others, but we just need to have the same respect and not cancel meetings with ourselves for the things that matter. So try time blocking. Number 2 is to say no to low priority tasks. The response might be like, I don't have the bandwidth to do that right now, or I'm not gonna be able to get to that until next week, instead of just automatically just saying, yes, of course I can do that, I can do that. I really struggle with this because I like to over-optimize, and I have a very high opinion about how much I think I might be able to get done, but then I actually get into it and suddenly I can't get those things done anymore, and I end up disappointing myself and others in many cases. So I need to learn also to say no and be like, nope, I really have to focus on these couple of things. I know that could take precedence, or yes, I will do it, but I'm gonna have to wait until first week of October. It is totally fine to push things back when you know what your priorities are, especially when they drive revenue. And last is to delegate where possible. This is one that I also struggle with. I have the thought of like, oh, I could just do that better or faster or easier myself, or by the time I teach someone else how to do it, I could have just done it myself once. There are plenty of people, even if you don't have employees, quote unquote, there are plenty of people you can delegate tasks to. Easy example is like, it would be great if I could write handwritten thank you notes to all the donors this month. And yes, I know that's gonna take a total of 4.5 hours of time, but if I ask my board to do it, there's 12 of them, they're only gonna have to work less than an hour a piece for them to write all those handwritten thank you notes. Not only does it get done faster with less people and they're not having to work as hard as I would, but I don't have to do that task at all now. That's something that they can easily do. I can set it up for them. I can give them the pens and the paper and say, hey, drop these back by my office before Friday or before next week, and go from there. So even if you're not someone who has more employees or people that you can delegate to, or an assistant or something like that, there are still volunteers and other people who can help you. And where it is possible to delegate, try to delegate. Don't ask the question, could I do it better? But could someone else do this? And would it be possible for them to get it done? And that way you prioritize only the things that you get done, gives you less total things to do, and you can go deeper on the tasks that are more meaningful. Hey, thanks for checking out our video. If you're getting value out of this but would like something more personalized, you can book 30 minutes with one of our experts to see if you qualify for our support services. Link below in the description. Number 2 is practice self-care, but hold on, before you throw something at your computer screen, let me explain what I mean here. What most people think of when they think of self-care, they're like, oh, that's like I'm reading a book with a glass of wine in the bathtub. I'm self-caring, or I'm like binging Netflix. This is not self-care. Maybe that's something that is nice and relaxing for you and something that you enjoy, but that's not technically what's considered self-care. Self-care would be like exercise, a nice hard workout, or even just a walk. Self-care would be prioritizing sleep. Self-care would be eating a healthy diet and getting plenty of water so that your body feels great and your brain is sharp. These things are not necessarily always fun. They certainly can be fun. Some people really like these things. I like some of these things a whole lot, but they're not necessarily fun. They take a little bit of effort and energy, and they're not as easy as sitting in a hot tub with a beer or something. If you do these things, you're much more likely to be in a better headspace than if you were to watch Netflix or doom scroll on your phone for 2 hours, says the guy who just spent 30 minutes doom scrolling on his phone. But my point is, if you're able to prioritize exercise, sleep, and a great diet most of the time, that is self-care. That is the self-care that you need to feel your best at work. The other tip is just to take appropriate breaks. We try to think of breaks as a way to prevent compassion fatigue and prevent fatigue of any kind, not in a response to fatigue. So this could look like taking a 5-minute walk break every hour. It could be taking a 30-minute lunch where you don't talk to anyone or look at your phone and you're just getting outside to get some fresh air. And it could be like spacing out your vacations so that you have some downtime and you're excited to get back to work and work on your nonprofit's mission again. All right, number 3, absolutely critical to your mental health, is to seek community. The pandemic obviously was a terrible thing. Y'all remember the pandemic back in 2020? The one thing it gave us though was a shared understanding of how terrible it is to be always in isolation, having to sit at home, especially if you didn't have a family around you or friends or people you could have in your social bubble or whatever we called them back in the day, but be able to seek community and how important that is for mental health. How much happier we are when we're around other people, we can relax. This could be coworkers, but also outside of work as well. So just a few things. Avoid isolation, which is really tough when you're tired and burnt out and you're feeling that compassion fatigue, but just even sitting with a friend where you don't have to talk, you're having that like together alone time, really, really helpful. Join some kind of a group outside of work, whether your thing is books or climbing or running or hockey or knitting or whatever it is, there's probably a group of people who like that thing as well. Even if your thing is something like video games, there's probably people online who can do that with you as well. But as much as you can to join a group outside of just your coworkers, they can be a wonderful support system, but sometimes you just need someone to vent to who's not gonna get you in trouble at work for venting. And finally, try to share openly with your coworkers when you can. And I know this feels like it's kind of the antithesis of what I just said, the kind of the opposite of being able to vent outside of work. But if you can kind of work to create a culture of openness, of not complaints, but like, hey, I noticed this happened. I was wondering if we could do it this way. Everyone feels a little more comfortable to share. Everyone has a better time and it's not so isolating while you're at work as well. So just some easy tips to make sure that we're always seeking community. We're very communal creatures, humans are. And if we isolate ourselves, it feels like it's I just want quiet rest by myself. I'm a huge introvert, so this is a big thing for me, but having a little bit of community goes a really long way for our mental health. And then finally, number 4, our last tip, is a healthy relationship with goals. Now, I love goals as much as the next guy. I'm a very goal-driven person. In fact, one of my goals is to grow this YouTube channel. So if you don't mind clicking subscribe, that would give me a little dopamine hit and help my mental health because I'd be working towards achieving one of my goals. When you're setting goals, it really does help to make them shorter and nearer term. People set these crazy New Year's resolutions, and it's why most people fail most of their resolutions, because a year is just too long. So in January, I'm just gonna change everything. I'm gonna start going to the gym, and I'm gonna read every day. I'm gonna quit all these bad habits. I'm not gonna have the doom scrolling apps on my phone. I'm not gonna vape anymore. Whatever your New Year's resolution habit is, it tends to fall off because it's too big of a thing, and you're giving yourself too much of a time bucket. When you have a goal, try to break it down into something like a weekly goal. Like this week, I'm gonna go to the gym 3 times. I have 7 days to do it, so I can take 4 days off, but I'm gonna go to the gym 3 times. Now, my overall goal, my yearly goal might be like, I wanna go to the gym very consistently, or I wanna go to the gym, 100 times this year total. That's great, you can have that goal, but just smaller time frame, smaller goal. It's gonna give you a way healthier relationship. You're gonna be able to achieve it, and you're gonna get that dopamine hit when you hit it the first time, and then you can build and stack from there. But don't overshoot your goals. Of course, you can have big long-term goals, but the first thing you should do is to break those down and say, what does that mean for me this week, and what does that mean for me today? What's something that I can accomplish and feel good about and be like, yeah, I did it. I got it done today, and that's gonna get me fired up to go tomorrow. And if I fall off the horse, say next week I only go 1 time, but it's okay, because the following week I'm gonna go 3 times again. It's all good. Second is to celebrate small wins. And this looks like something if you're able to secure 1 donor meeting. Say, hey, I've really been trying to chase this donor down for a while. I'm so excited she finally agreed to have coffee with me. That's a big win because it can lead to something big, and we should try to celebrate it in a microwave, whether with yourself or with your coworkers or with your spouse when you get home. But talk about the small things and say, hey, this is really something great. You always want something little to look forward to. Some say that's the key to happiness, is to always have something to look forward to. So if you can have these little cues that just kind of keep you going throughout the day, throughout the week, it really does make a huge difference as well. Just some final key takeaways for you. If you're the type of person who's just like, nope, I'm gonna pour my lifeblood, I don't care if I get burnt out, this is for the mission, keep in mind, your best self is gonna be best for the mission. You'll be able to support the mission better by taking appropriate breaks, by surrounding yourself with community, with taking care of your body even when it's hard, all these things that we know we're supposed to do, but all that affect mental health. So if you tend to be a little bit self-sacrificial and for the cause, just know that you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you try to, it's gonna be a very finite amount of time before you do get burnt out and can't help it all. So stay resilient, sustain your passion, and help serve your community better. Again, one final disclaimer that I'm not a mental health professional. These are just some of the tips that have helped me and the people that I work with. Hopefully some of these things are able to help you too. If you have any additional mental health tips for fundraising professionals, definitely leave those in the comments. I'd love to see what y'all have done as well. And as always, if you'd like additional help, you can head over to pridephilanthropy.com and click on that Let's Chat button. Allows you to speak directly with a member of our team to see if we can help you. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.